No. Hey everyone, you are getting us in our grubbies today because we just got back from a 2.5-hour bike ride and I wanted to get this recorded. I felt this was more important, or it probably wouldn't get recorded if we just didn't tackle it. So anyways, we are going to talk about singular and plural and how that can be really confusing when the singular, the plural S is on a verb. And that's where it really gets confusing. So we're going to tackle that. We're also going to talk about schwa. And I know we've talked about schwa in the past, but schwa is something that actually should be repeated over and over again because that's how we remember. And that's how it sticks in your brain because schwa is difficult. And then we're going to go and tackle our tenses again quite a bit. Okay, so now let's look at this word musculature. And we're going to focus on ture in this section, and we're going to break apart this word and we're going to talk about the accents. So when you look in a dictionary, let's say you don't really have access to being able to spell a word out and then hearing it from your computer or your smartphone or anything like that. You're looking up in the dictionary, you're trying to figure this out. If you see it in capital letters, you know that that is the accented syllable. And that is the one that should be the loudest. It should be the longest. It's the one that is stressed. So, and then we have Q. This is not accented. So this is an open syllable. This is a closed syllable right here. And what kind of syllable is this, boys?
Open.
Open, exactly. So you need to remember that if you have an open A sitting in one of your syllables, this is going to help you learn how to read. This turns to schwa if it's not accented. Does this look accented? When you look at this, no. It's not accented. And you'll see in the dictionary where even E's and those type of things, but really where you are going to have the issue where you're not going to be able to hear the sounds as well is when you have an open A or a closed A or closed O's. But that's schwa. And those are the ones you really need to focus on to be able to get your sounds down. The others kind of just naturally do it most of the time. And then we have chur. And chur is a unit sound. And it will always be the same sound. And you will spell it T-U-R-E. Okay, so now let's talk about this. Stressed vowels. Those are the accented vowels. Accented vowels. So that's saying Unstressed vowels are the unaccented syllables right there. So if you hear it, it means the same thing, really. It means when you're reading this, you guys, it's really important that you understand that this needs to be, what does it mean to be stressed? Say that word for me. Well, you say it.
Musculature.
Now, this is supposed to sound a little bit longer and a little bit louder. Musculature. Musculature. So that's how you would say that, with just that a little bit longer and a little bit louder. Now when you're used to just speaking, it just kind of naturally happens and you can't really hear it as much unless you slow it down. But this is important that when you're reading, you're saying, well, what is stressed vowels? What's unstressed vowels? It's pretty much, it's understanding the ones that are accented and unaccented. Okay, so let's look at chur. When they form nouns and they compound with other words. So what do you think this other word would be in musculature? Think about a compound word. What do you think in musculature the other compound word is that you're putting them together as a compound word? Muscle. Does that make sense? So you're putting chur on basically and you're compounding that together. Okay, they also end the word. Unless you're adding on a suffix like your plural S, your INGs, or something like that, you're going to see them at the end of your words. The LA, right here, an open A, right here, I shouldn't say because. The LA, it's not accented here. It's an open A. When it's an open A, it's going to go to what? Schwa.
Schwa.
Okay. Now, we're talking about this word, the second syllable in a 4-syllable word. That's right there. Now, most of the time in a 3-syllable word, well, a 2-syllable word, let's say most of the time in a 2-syllable word, where's the accent? It is the first one, unless you know it's a Latin root, then it's most of the time the Latin root. But if it's not a Latin root, then it's going to be the first one. But how about in a 3-syllable word, where are you going to find your accent?
That first two.
It will be these two, and most likely this one. It will never be this one. Once you get into a 3-syllable word, you know this one will never be accented. And once you get into 4 or more, these two will most likely never be accented. Okay? Most of the time it'll be here, but in this word, it is the 4th right here. Well, the very first syllable. All right, so T-U-R-E says chur. How do you spell chur, you guys?
T-U-R-E.
Nice. Now, this is at the end. If you have T-U-R-E in the middle, what's going to happen? It's not going to have the E on it. It's going to be T-U-R. So you can say mature-ing, you're going to drop that, and you're going to have T-U-R. It's going to be in the middle. So, but it still says the same sound. But if it's at the end, you have to have the E. Okay, so now let's look at the word mature. We have an open A. It's not the very, is this the accent syllable if you say mature?
No.
No, it's not. This is the unstressed syllable. So it's going to say mature, mature, so if you say it quickly, mature. So you see how it would be louder and longer when you're trying to say that. And the unaccented syllable is the unstressed syllable. You do not, so they go together, and the unaccented syllables are not stressed. The accented syllables are stressed. Okay, do you guys understand that? When you're trying to learn how to read, I mean, when you're speaking, you can't hear that as much, but it just naturally happens when you have it right. And you'll be able to understand your words better when stressed correctly. Okay, so now let's look at this word. All right, so this open A, see how this word right here is a 2-syllable word. So it's not being compounded with another word. So oftentimes you're going to have it just as its very own word. This is still a unit syllable, and this is an open syllable. And so this right here is Latin. This is the main Latin root in this word. Okay, so this open syllable is turning to schwa, and this is the accented syllable. So that's the reason why this says ma. So most of the time, you guys, if you see a word like this is the main Latin part, and if you see a word like this, you can try it 2 different ways. You can try it mature, if you're not sure, and if you're trying to read it and you know your English, and if that doesn't sound right, then try mature and see if that works for you. Yeah. Okay. All right, this is Latin. It means ripe. Well, ripe means mature. Mature means ripe. I am a mature woman. You guys are not mature.
Yeah, we are.
That means you're not ripe for the pickings. You can't get married. Okay, so that sounded so funny. All right, it means full development. I am a fully developed woman, and you guys are not fully developed, right?
Men.
You're not fully developed men. Okay, so now the M-A turns to schwa, and it's not accented. Right there, we're not accenting that. Mature. And it's an open A. Remember that? Open A's turn to schwa if they're not accented. So we do not stress it. We say mature, mature. See, this should be quieter and this should be louder. That's what it means when you say stressed. The main Latin root is chur. An open A turns to schwa when the syllable is not accented. All right, you guys remember that? So pasture, let's talk about this word. You're gonna break here. Chur is your unit syllable. Pass. This is the accent. You can tell because that did not turn to schwa. It's not open, but it is a closed A. Open and closed A's is what you have to be careful with when you are trying to figure out your schwa. You can say pasture. Does that sound right? Doesn't sound right. So switch it to pasture and see if that sounds right. And pasture sounds right. So that's what you're going to use. This is if you can't figure out a word when you're trying to figure out schwa. Schwa is in so many words. All right, this falls in the late Latin area. We have early Latin, we have modern Latin, we have late Latin. That's the reason why the English language, in many languages, it cannot, sometimes we can't like merge our words in and understand them fully. All right, well, pasture, it's a noun. But pasture can also be a verb. So when it's a verb, we use the word pastures. And now this pastures, what position is that sitting in? When you're talking about a tense, nouns are super easy to figure out are plurals. Verbs, on the other hand, they are tricky when you're figuring out the plurals. Now, your subjects and your verbs have to match. And you have to figure out how to function with the plurals. Where does pastures fit in the tense? Right here, guys. If you say pastures with this plural S right here. Okay, so this is a verb and you have to be careful with your plural S's when it's a verb. So we have pastures. Where does that fit if you're saying this is a tense?
Simple present.
Yeah, this sits in your simple present tense. When it's a verb, you need to understand your tenses. It's not just you're adding on your plural S. You have to understand where it sits as a tense. And this plural S sits in the simple present tense. Okay? Pasturing, where's that sitting?
Progressive.
Exactly, this is your participle, and it's your progressive participle, and it has to have a helping verb, or you can say an auxiliary verb, okay? Pastured, where's this at?
Past.
This is sitting in the past, but it's also called, this could be in the simple past, your perfect participle right here. And if it's a perfect participle, you have to use your auxiliary verb to make sure that you are, that's what, your auxiliary verb is what's going to connect subject with your verbs correctly. It's going to make your singular and plurals correct. Okay, now, this pasture, pastured, as a verb, it means to feed, okay? Pastured, we have the simple past and the perfect participle. Grass as a food. So that's what it means. What does pastured means, you guys?
Grass as food.
Yeah, so you see the animals go out into the pasture and they eat the grass. So you have pastured. It's simple past. It does not take an auxiliary verb for simple past. But then you have the perfect participle as pastured. Does that take a helping verb, you guys? Yes. Your perfect participle takes the helping verb. If it has your helping verb, your auxiliary verb, however you want to say it, it has to be in the perfect tense. It's sitting in the perfect tense if it's sitting with an auxiliary verb. If it's not, it's in the simple tense. Do you guys remember that? Okay. Okay, it's a grass as a food. Okay, now we have pasture. The word pasture. It means into grass. We're going into the grass. I really want you guys to understand. This is more like also a dictionary word. So it could be a verb or a noun. It can mean into nourishment. So see how the pasture, this is how the verb works. You can use these, but it's super easy to do a noun where you could say, the pastures are green. See how easy that is? You just add the plural s, and you need to make sure that your auxiliary verb is what's causing you to match your subject to your verb. Or you could say, the pasture is green. The pastures, you could say the pastures are green, and that would be the plural s, or you could say the pasture is green, and that would be singular. And see how I'm using auxiliary verbs to make that work? When you say into nourishment, at the beginning of the season, we actually went on a bike ride. Okay, so you guys remember when we went out on that bike ride and the cows went out to pasture, and the week before it was a fantastic ride, and then they went out to pasture and there was so much poop that our bikes turned out to be so disgusting. It took us a long time to clean them up. But they went in to get the grass for the nourishment that they needed. They went into the grass, they went into the nourishment. All right, so pasture, let's look at that again. We're gonna look at it as a third person. It matters that you understand what first, second, and third person for you to understand your tenses. If you're not understanding that, you're not gonna get this right. So we're gonna say, look at this, the simple singular as pastures. And look at the simple plural as pasture. But look at these. These are verbs right here. But if you look at it as a noun, look at this, you guys. You have singular. This is if you have it as a noun. And then the plural is going to be here. But if you have, and this is if you're sitting in the simple present. This is for the verb. It's singular, but it looks plural. And this is for the verb. It's plural, but it looks singular. But you don't have to worry about that when it's a noun. You can just add the plural s, and it makes it a noun. Okay? All right, so look at this word. The livestock pastures on the south side of the field. So singular takes the singular verb. This is simple. There is no helping verb here, so it's going to take singular takes the singular. So that means you have to have the s right there. And we're going to go over all of our tenses. Actually, this isn't all of your tenses, but we won't move into the other tenses until you have these tenses down and you actually understand how to use these tenses. So we have the simple past, the simple present, and the simple future. And the only auxiliary verb that you use in any of the simples are when you use the auxiliary verb will. And that only happens in the future. And so the plural, when you're doing the simple, is, see how the plural when you're using simple, how it doesn't have the s on it? What are you going to do for singular? Tell me, boys.
You put the s on it.
Yeah, this is what it's going to be for singular. Does that make sense? That happens in the simple present right there. Only here, you're going to have that in the simple present. We do not have auxiliary verbs when we do simple. Now progressive past, progressive present, progressive future. Okay, where do we find our tense here?
ing.
ing. These are all your participles with the ing. Okay, this is progressive. You're moving forward. You're progressing. All right, that's what now this though is how you figure out you are going to figure out this with your what? Your auxiliary verb, right? Mm-hmm. Your auxiliary verb is what's going to tell you, is it in the past? Is it in the present? Or is it in the future? What auxiliary verb are you going to use for the progressive past?
Was.
Was and?
Were.
Were. Nice. So was and were, depending on if you are going to have a plural or a singular subject, is the auxiliary verb that you use. How about if in the progressive present? what auxiliary verb are you going to use in the progressive present? Is or are. Now, am, it only works in first person, okay? How about progressive future? Will be is your progressive future. Do you remember that, Paul? And that's what you use here. See how simple future, you just use the word will. Progressive future, you use the word will be. And what are we going to use for our pasture? Here. Pasturing. Okay, that's progressive. All right, now perfect past, perfect present, perfect future. Now, this right here, perfect past, look at this. Had and had, we use the same auxiliary verb. It doesn't matter. But look, perfect present, you have to be careful with the progressive present, the simple present, the perfect present. Good job, have and has. So is this plural or singular?
Plural.
Nice, have is plural, has is singular. Okay, now, with the future, you don't have to worry about it. It's the same. Will have, it doesn't matter. But you have to care about in the present. When you're talking about, now, if we're talking about pasture, what are we going to say when we're using pasture? We're going to use our participle, and it's going to be pastured. But you need your proper helping verb right here, okay? Your proper auxiliary verb. The livestock has pastured on the south side of the field. So what tense is this falling in, Paul?
Yeah.
Has pastured, what tense is it falling in? Going to be the perfect present singular.
Yep.
Perfect present singular. And that's how you look at that. And the has is telling you. Now, look at the livestock. The livestock will have pastured on the south side of the field. Now, look at the will have pastured. What is that? What kind of tense is will have pastured?
Perfect future, and it's...
Yeah, the perfect, sits in the perfect future. Is it singular or plural?
Singular.
So this is where that could be a little bit confusing, because look at livestock.
Plural.
Is livestock singular or plural?
Singular. Plural.
This is one of those words that it's an uncountable, and it can fit in a collective noun area, but it's not a true collective noun. Do you guys remember what a collective noun is?
No.
A collective noun are the nouns that, if you say like a herd of deer, you use them as a singular.
Okay.
Like a herd of deer, you would use. But this one's an uncountable, so you kind of have to use this as how you want to. If you're gonna, like right here, I used it as a singular. Here you can't tell what I used it as, because there is no singular or plural. So right here there is no singular or plural right here, because perfect future it doesn't matter if it's singular or plural, it'll be the same. The cows have pastured on the south side of the field. Now, I went ahead, I didn't have enough room, so I abbreviated south. It needs to be capitalized with a period. That's how you abbreviate. Now, look at this. Cows have pastured. The cows have pastured on the south side of the field. Okay, what tense is this?
Perfect plural.
Perfect plural. This have is plural. So that means the cows are plural. The cow has pastured on the south side of the field. What tense is this? It's sitting in your perfect present singular. This matters. If it's going to sit in your present, you need to make sure that you have the correct auxiliary verb to your subject. See, this is plural, plural. Singular, singular. The nouns do not matter. When you add on your plural s, it's plural. But these matter on how you use them. The cow pastures. All right, we have singular to singular with, it looks like the plural s, but it's singular. But it's because this is in the simple present, right? And it's sitting in third person. The cows pasture. Look where the S is, but there's an S on here, but there's not an S here. It's because it's sitting in the simple present. Simple present is where you're going to find the change. Plural, plural. So the cow is pasturing. Singular, singular. Your auxiliary verb is in the progressive tense right here. The cows are pasturing. This is plural, plural. Singular, singular, singular. Progressive tense, INGs. These are your participles with your auxiliary verbs. So the cows, see how this has your plural S right here? This is your noun. So that means this R is plural. You can't say the cows is pasturing. You can't say it. You have to use the correct auxiliary verb. You can't say the cow are pasturing. It sounds goofy. But so many people mess this up. And it's sitting in the progressive. The cow has pastured. See how this is singular, so that means this is singular. The cows have pastured. This is plural, so this is plural. You cannot do the cow have pastured. You can't do it for it to sit in the perfect present. We're talking about the perfect present. The cows has pastured. You cannot say that. You cannot write it. It's wrong. Daniel's making me laugh. Okay. Look at this. Singular, singular. These are participles. These are your perfect present, and they're participles. Okay? But participles, they have, if you're going to use them as a verb, they have to have the auxiliary verb there with them. Okay, the cows pastured. See, there's no auxiliary verb here. So you do not, when you're doing simple past, nothing changes. You do not have to even worry. Look at that. We can use plural here. This is plural. If you want to say cow here, the cow pastured. Singular, singular. It's the same. You don't have to worry about it. The cows will pasture. The cow will pasture. This is simple future. It doesn't matter with the simple past or the simple future. These are the same. And so there's not a worry there. Are you going to get, because your subject and your verb has to match. Are you going to get it right? This is easy because it doesn't change. Where you need to make sure that you are not getting it wrong, boys. The present changes. Where do we get this wrong?
Present.
The present. In every single one, whether it's your simple, progressive, or your perfect, if you're not getting the present part correct, you're going to get it wrong. Okay, now look at this word right here. Enrapture, enrapture. Now the accented syllable is this one. This means that this syllable right here is stressed. So this is the accented syllable. How do we know that that's the accented syllable, boys?
Because A's not in the same, or accented.
The A is accented is because the A is saying ah. We know that the A is saying ah. It's saying it's short sound. So remember, in a 3-syllable word, it's not going to be here. It could be here or here. And so you could play with it. Now remember, closed A's, when they're not accented, will turn to schwa. But closed A's, when they are accented, says the sound that you would expect. We could practice it. It could say enrapture? Well, that doesn't make sense. How about enrapture? So play with your word, see if you can get it to work out. Okay, so this is a Latin root. Right here, wrapped, is your Latin root in here. So oftentimes you're going to have this unit sound be hooked on to a Latin root, and then sometimes you won't, right? We talked about that in the last word. Enrapture means a delight. Also means give joy to, right? So here's an example of a sentence that you can use enrapture in. Tiny infant enraptured me as I held her. So we just had our first grandbaby, so I don't get to hold her yet, but next week. But the tiny infant enraptured me as I held her. So we were filled with delight. It's giving us joy as we're holding the baby. Does that make sense? So if you look at this, boys, what tense would you find this in?
Past.
Okay, past. What kind? Is it?
Simple.
It's simple past. The reason why that's important for you to know is because your other tenses would need helping verbs. And then it helps you. Does that make sense? Nice. So that's what tense this is falling in. All right, so look at these two sentences. The heavens enrapture my soul. So what tense is that in?
Present.
Okay, simple present. So I told it to you, right? So, but is this?
Your head was in the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is this singular or plural? So this is plural. We know that this is plural because our noun is plural. So that means this has to be plural. This doesn't look plural because we don't have our S on it, but it is plural because this is sitting in third person, simple present. Third person, simple present. And so now we have heaven enraptures my soul. This is singular. The noun is singular. So we have to match the verb for it to be singular. And this is where it gets really confusing. Well, why does it have a plural s on there? Because it's in simple present and it is third person, right? So it has to be in third person and it's simple present. That's when you know to have the plural s on your verb. So it's super easy to understand it as a noun, but you need to understand it when you're figuring out your tenses. Okay, the heavens are enrapturing my soul. So right here, when you have progressive, your auxiliary verb is what is choosing your tense. So your helping verb is what is figuring out your plural. Does that make sense? Are is plural. Heavens is plural because your noun has to have the plural s. It makes the plural, so you have to make sure your verb is plural. If your noun is singular, you have to make sure your verb is singular. So when you are in the progressive tense, you're using ing, progressive tense is ing. You're progressing, you're moving forward, you have to make sure you're using your auxiliary verb. Now you don't if it's an adjective. You don't if you're using it in the noun position because then it becomes a gerund. This is what confuses so many people. Heaven is enrapturing my soul. See the difference? This is singular, so your verb is singular. Your auxiliary verb is singular. This is plural, so your auxiliary verb is plural. You don't look at it right here. You look at your auxiliary verbs when you are in the progressive tense. The heavens have enraptured my soul. So now we're sitting in the perfect tense. See how this has the S on it. So this means it's plural. Your nouns are so easy. If you put the S on the end, it's plural. So that means you need to make sure you put your verbs as plural. Okay, so have is plural. You have to use that. Now remember, in the perfect tense, you're using ED. In the progressive tense, you're using the ing. In the simple tense, you're not using any of those, either of those. It's just the word. So when you hit your tenses, it's talking about your verbs. Okay? Now, heaven has enraptured my soul. See, we have enraptured, we have our auxiliary verb. We're linking this singular, there's no S on it, it goes with singular. Does that make sense? Singular goes with singular. So this is not what changes. Your auxiliary verb is what changes when you have progressive and perfect. But in the simple tense, your S changes. Okay? Puncture. So see how it breaks right here. And see how it ends with the chur. When it's a very own word, it's going to be at the end of these. And how do you spell it? T-U-R-E when it's at the end. And then we would drop the E and add on our vowel suffix. If you're going to do a vowel suffix, like puncturing, then it would be drop the E and add your ing. All right. Now, punctured means flat. Like the punctured tire, the tire went flat. It can mean a hole. Also, puncture can be either a verb or a noun. So that's where you can get really confused. Is this a verb or a noun? So you're going to have to know how to use it as either or. Okay? So if you put on your plural S right there, is that going to be, let's see, if I put a plural S right here, boys, would it be singular or plural? If I just decided to add a plural S right here. So it could be either or. Because if I decided if it's going to be a noun, it's going to be plural. If I decide that it's going to be a verb, it's going to be singular. See how confusing that is? Okay, so now look at this as a verb. The pencil punctured the leather couch. So, is this singular or plural? It is singular. This is what kind of tense?
Past tense.
This is the past, the simple past, because we do not have an auxiliary verb right here. So, it doesn't change when you are trying to figure out your past. It could be the pencils. So this could be plural or singular using the same verb. Do you see that? But what if I decided to do pencils and I wanted it to be in the present? We'd take the ED. And would we add the S on there or would we keep it off?
Yeah.
You don't, because see, look, plural, plural. That's why this is so confusing. The pencils puncture the leather couch. It totally makes sense. If you put a plural S on your noun and you want it to be in the simple tense, this now without the S here has now become plural. Even though it doesn't look like it, this is now plural. Does that make sense, boys?
Yes.
So, plural, plural. Now, the pencil punctured the leather couch. Now, right here, do we add an S here? I took the S out here. Do we add the S here? Yes.
Pencil punctures. Yeah.
The pencil punctures the leather couch.
I thought it was a trick question.
No, it's not a trick question. This is so confusing. So confusing. So, The pencil punctured the leather couch. See how it doesn't make sense? It just sounds bad. This is singular when you have it in the simple tense. So now let's read this as a noun. The puncture in the couch came from a pencil. See how now this is a noun. I want it to be singular. So where's our verb? So we're going to use a singular verb. Okay? It's past. Singular takes singular. Say, can we just do this? The punctures. Can we add an S on there?
You would have to change the verb, right?
So sometimes we would have to change the verb, but since this is sitting in the past, it's not sitting in the present, we don't change the verb. So it can actually be both. The punctures in the couch came from the pencils. Oh, and so that's where you would also need to be careful. You would need to make sure that other things are pluraled. Because this, actually, you would have to see if other things need to be pluraled. But look, the punctures in the couch came from a pencil. So you could do one pencil. So just make sure that your plurals match. This could be multiple, this could be more than one pencil, or it could just be one pencil. Either way, it makes sense for you guys to be doing that. Okay, now let's look. Okay, the stick punctures the raft. This is sitting in simple present, all right? This is singular. So that means this is singular even though it looks like it has a plural S. This is third person, simple present, singular. Okay? So see where it changes. The sticks puncture the raft. See how your noun is plural. This is plural without the S. So where does it change? It changes in the simple present. It changes in the perfect present. It changes in the progressive present. Where do we see the change? The present changes. That's where you really have to pay attention. Where are you going to see the change? Where are we going to see the change? In the present. Whether it's in the simple, progressive, or the perfect, that's where you're going to see the change of your verbs. If it's sitting in any of the others, you're not going to see the change. But in the present, you have to know and understand your verbs. All right, the present changes. So now let's look at the next one. The stick is puncturing the raft. Well, look, we have singular takes your singular verb. The puncturing, your participle's not changing. It's your auxiliary verb that's changing. So you have to know which auxiliary verbs are singular and which are plural. Is singular. The sticks are puncturing the raft. This is in the progressive present. This is plural, so it takes the plural verb. What's changing in here? It's the auxiliary verb, not your actual verb. Okay? The present changes. These are all sitting in the present. How do we know it's in the present? Yeah, the helping verb is you have to understand which are present. These are present verbs. And so this one, you have to understand the simple present. These don't have INGs or EDs, right? And progressive, you have to have auxiliary verbs to help it out. But with your perfect, you don't to make it be in the simple past. Do you remember that? Okay, so now let's look at this. The stick has punctured the raft. See, this is going to sit in the perfect present. And see how right here, stick is singular, so you're going to take the singular verb. Has is the singular verb. The sticks have punctured the raft. So if this is plural, this is plural. Have is the plural when it sits in the perfect tense. Okay? You guys understanding that? Okay, so now, look at this. I want you to remember, the present changes. See how all of these, we're going to get the present to change. See how they changed. These are changing. These are changing. It doesn't do that when you have them sit in the past or the future. But if it sits in the present, they change. The action verb does not change unless it is sitting in the simple present and the subject sits in the third person singular. Okay? That's when you're going to see it with the plural S. It has to sit in the third person singular for the S to change. Okay? The third person singular. Let's look at the word nation. So this is your Latin root right here. We have nat. If it's sitting by itself, I would say nat, but it will obviously break apart in different areas when you add on your other syllables. Okay, so nation, I know it's not a chur, T-U-R, but I just wanted to feature this one so we're understanding what a nation really is. So this comes from the Latin root. We know that when you see a T-I-O-N, almost always, if you see a T-I-O-N or an S-I-O-N, you're connected to a Latin root. All right, it means to be born. So when America was born, it was called a nation. We also call a nation people. It's with the same languages, same traditions, political views, same government, and our civilization is the same when we have a nation, or somewhat the same. I mean, obviously we have different traits and stuff, but that's where. Okay, so look at natal. See how nate or nat right there? Neonatal. See how that's where it comes with newborn babies. Well, nate comes with born, and neo means really brand new. And see how you can get help with this when you're understanding your Latin roots? The nat or the nate or whatever stands for born. So newborn babies is neonatal. When you go into the hospital and you're in the neonatal section, that's where the newborn babies are. Now, nation is a noun. And oftentimes, see where we had enraptured, that was a verb. And see how puncture could be used as a noun or a verb. So you need to know that just because it's a word doesn't mean it's going to be a noun always. But nation works best as a noun. I'm sure that somehow you can make it a verb if you tried really hard, but this one actually works. It's a noun. I would say this one was a noun most of the time. Punctured could be a noun or a verb. Enrapture is most of the time a verb. But you could probably make that a noun. So be careful how you write your sentences and how you're understanding how to create your different things. When you know it's a noun, the plural, you just add an S on. When you know it's a noun. But singular, you keep it off. It's where it gets really confusing is understanding how to use your plural S on a verb. Nouns are so easy. But verbs is where it gets confusing, and that's where you need to understand your simple present tense. If you're not understanding your simple present tense, you're going to have to listen to it for sound. And sometimes sound does not work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes like, ooh, that sounds bad. And then you can fix it. But other times you can't hear it. So look at this one, boys. Our nation needs to help the educational system. So, is this singular or plural?
Looks like it's singular.
This is singular. There's no S there. Nouns are so easy. You just add your S. It's so easy. But does that look singular or plural?
It looks plural, but it's actually singular.
Exactly. Because it is sitting in the simple present with a third person as its noun, right? So it's sitting in the simple present. So that means it needs the plural S on the verb, even though it's sitting in singular. That's singular. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now also, when you're doing sentences like this, look at your pronoun adjectives. Make sure you're using the right pronoun for your understanding of your words. Our nations need to help the educational system. So see how your subject and verbs need to match. Look how the rest of the sentence it makes sense. Sometimes it won't make sense. Sometimes you need to change things up in here. Nations, is this plural or singular?
Plural.
This is plural. So is this plural or singular, Paul?
Singular. Plural.
This is plural.
Plural.
Even though this looks like it's singular, you guys. Plural takes plural because this is sitting in the simple tense.
I know we've done that like 5 times.
That's why I keep redoing it. It's so confusing. And plural takes plural. Singular takes singular. So look at the difference.
Oh gosh.
Your nation delegates administrators to push the educational system. Okay. Is this singular?
Yes.
Yes. So is this singular?
Yes.
This is singular because it sits in the simple present position. Okay? So it takes the plural s. Even though your subject right here is singular, this is considered singular. This is third person, singular, third person. Okay, there. So see how your nation, just make sure you're using these properly. Their nations delegate administrators to push the educational system. Is this plural?
Yes.
Yes, because nouns are easy. You don't have to worry about that with the noun. The plural s, it's where the verb. Is this plural?
No, yes, it is.
This is plural. Even though you would think that they would need to match, but they don't because it's sitting in simple present. Does that make sense, Paul? Now, my nation advises their teachers to articulate their writing. Okay, singular takes singular. Their nations advise their teachers to articulate their writing. Plural takes the plural. Are you guys seeing that?
Yes, I do.
Plural takes plural, singular takes singular.
So, the nouns, you take the plural s. But the verb, make sure you're understanding where it's sitting. If you just have a verb all by itself, this is an action verb. Then, and you do not have any auxiliary verbs helping you out, you know if this is singular, you have to have a plural s right there. If this is plural, you leave the s off. Okay? Okay, the students counsel with the senator about our nation. Is this singular or plural, Paul? Plural. Singular or plural?
Plural.
Okay, so
Because there's more than one student.
so that means this right here does not take the plural s.
Boom.
The student counsels with the senator about our nation. It's one student. But look, it looks like it has a plural s on its verb. But this verb, because it's sitting in the simple present. And you have what? Third person, person. You have to be in third person. Okay? All right. Now let's break this apart with nation. See how nay right here, open A's. This is saying it's long A sound. So it's not turning to schwa. T-I-O-N will not be accented.
Never.
They just won't. This right here, the N-A-T is your Latin root, even though it's stuck over here. So this is the accented syllable. It's open, so it's not turning to schwa. This is a closed O, and so it's turning to schwa. Nation. But look at this. This T-I. What is that called?
What?
What's this TI called?
It's a digraph.
It's called a digraph. This vowel right here is not it's not a vowel in this one. It's part of this digraph. Okay, a closed O will turn to schwa when not accented. So it's not going to be stressed. So your stressed means it's going to say nation. See, this should be louder and longer than your unstressed. This is the accented syllable. It's going to be, this is going to be stressed and this is going to be unstressed. Nation, nation. Okay, we got our new board up here. We've got our rainbow colors going on again. This is a great lesson to have all of these, and don't forget to look for the rainbow. It just actually rained a ton right here, and I'm sure we have one outside soon. All right, so let's remember, you guys. I want you to remember. A verb sits in a tense. Paul, where does a verb sit?
In a tense.
Right. All verbs sit in a tense. The plural S sits on the simple present tense of the verb. All right? That's where you're going to find the plural S on a tense. It's going to be in the simple present tense. All right? Okay. Now we have the third person subject changes the verb depending on the tense. So you have to understand what your persons are to be able to get your tenses down properly. Now look at this. Now if we have subject, is that singular or plural, Paul?
It's singular.
It is singular. Is there a plural S right here? No. So this is a singular. So that means this is singular or plural?
It's singular.
This is singular. See how we have the plural S in here. But Lex, what if we did this? And we put a plural S on our noun. We have to take that off. This means it's plural, and that means it's plural. This means it is sitting, well, this is a third person. This means it's third person, simple present tense verb. All right? This is a third person subject in that part right there. All right. When a noun has the plural S, it means more than one, but that is not the case with the verb. So we still call the S or the ES added onto a verb, we still call that the plural S because it makes things singular or plural. But you have to understand what? You have to understand your tenses. If you do not understand your tenses, you're not going to get this right. Sometimes you can hear it and you're like, ooh, that sounds bad. That doesn't sound right. But if you can do it for sound sometimes, but I've seen so many people mess that up. You have to understand that to get it right. Okay? All right, so we're going to look at first, second, and third person more. And you need to understand what this means. First person, I, right? I. And Daniel, come on in here. Daniel and I would be we. We are first person. Okay? So now you would have you. Well, you in the camera, you out there in the world, you is second person. And then we have third person, which is, what is it?
He, she, it.
He, she, it, and then your plural is they. And then all of your other nouns, kitchen, Lisa, Daniel, Paul, garage, road. What's that?
I think someone's name is third person.
Yes. If you are saying somebody's name, you know you are in third person. Because it's like you're writing down, Lisa went to the store. I mean, if you're saying, I went to the store, you're talking about yourself. But when you put down, even though that's my name, maybe it's not my name, maybe it's somebody else's name. So they don't know which Lisa, but they know when you say I, it's I. It is you. So now look at this. I need. We're going to use the verb need to make a point. So look, I need, no plural s. This is singular, so this takes the singular verb. You, this is singular, so it takes the singular verb. There's no plural s on here. Nation, that is singular. But look what happened. It takes the plural s because this is sitting in third person, and then we have simple present tense, singular. It only happens in third person, so this is third person, singular, simple present tense. See, do you see an auxiliary verb here? No, there's not an auxiliary verb, so you know you're sitting in simple present or simple. But since there's no ing or ed, you know it is in the simple also, right? So, simple present, singular. Okay, so now we're doing the same thing. We need. We're going, this is plural, this is plural. Our verb does not change in first person with the s on here. Does that make sense? It does not change in first person. You do not use the plural s on your verb. It does not change you need. It does not change in second person. Where we find our plural is in our subject. But look what happens in third person. Now you have your plural in your subject, plural s, but it doesn't change in your verb. The only place it changes is simple present tense, singular, third person when you add the plural s on there. Super confusing, way confusing. And you can hear it. Like, listen to this, you guys. Nation needs. So that sounds right. But does it sound right? Nation need? It doesn't sound quite right, but you can get that really confused. Our nation need the whatever. It sounds goofy. Look at that. This is plural. You're using the plural s, but it does not change. It's not changing in the third person plural. It's not changing in the second person plural or singular. It's not changing in first person plural or singular. It only changes in third person singular present tense. Present tense. But we are focusing on simple present in these. But it is present tense. Remember, our present tense changes. And in with, which is what? INGs are what?
Actions.
Progressive.
Progressive.
INGs are progressive. You're continuing on. That's when you need the helping verb, the auxiliary verb. Those are the ones that changes. What's the other one? What's the ED? The perfect. And the present tense changes there. But we are focusing on the plural s. Okay? Now look at this. I delegate.
Ooh.
There's no s here. It's singular. You delegate. Is there a plural s on here? No, it's you delegate. No, there's no plural s. You do not change the verb. He delegates. We have third person subject. That means this changes. We add the plural s onto our verb. This is in third person. Singular. Third person. Singular. So it takes the plural s. All right? This is the only time it changes. Is when it's sitting in the simple present tense. Like this. That's when you add on your plural s onto a verb. Now let's look at this again. Now we have we. Daniel, come in here. We. Come on in here. Okay, now we have we.
We.
That's us. Okay? So we're talking about us. We're first person. I, that's me, talking about first person. Oh, Daniel, come in here. That's right. We have first person, we're we. Okay, and you, oh, that's you. You. It's Paul. Oh, you're over there. You're over there. You're Paul. It's not we. It's you. Second person. But look, the verb is not changing. You delegate. It's not changing. Whether it's plural or singular, it does not change. Whether you're in first person, it does not change. Your verb does not need the plural s. But look what happens. They delegate. No plural s. This is plural, but this is plural. But look at all these other ones. They don't change. Whether it's singular or plural. Singular or plural. Now plural doesn't change. You do not put on the plural s. So if you can remember, the only one that changes is when it sits in singular, third person, simple present tense. That's when you add on your es for a verb.
Delegates.
Yeah. You can't say they delegates. That sounds goofy.
Delegate.
But sometimes you can't hear it. So that's why it's so important. So you're like, ooh, which one is it? But if you know the rule, then you don't need to worry about it. All right. So what is this, singular or plural?
That's plural.
This is plural. How do we know that?
Because it doesn't have an S on it.
It doesn't have the S on it. And oftentimes we look at our subject, right? Your subject needs to match the verb to make it plural. That's a plural subject. Make your verb match. But you have to know how to conjugate your verbs to make this match, the plural to plural, making it plural. You have to know how to do that. All right, I advise. Oh, look, first person, I, right? I advise. You advise. Oh, that's you right there. It's you, right? It's Paul. It's Daniel. Oh, and they would be clear over there. Oh, that's them over there. Third person, it's they. Whoa. All right, so now you advise. Are there plural s's on here, you guys?
No.
There's none. This is singular. There's no plural s on our verb. But look, nation advises. Is this singular or plural?
A singular.
That is a singular noun. So why does this have a plural s on it?
Because it has to match the noun.
Yes, so this is what you call conjugating your verb. See, if you look at this, advise, these don't change, but it does here. When it's in third person, right? And you add your plural s. Singular, this is singular, that takes a singular verb. When, it's when. Simple present tense. And it has to be third person. Okay, so now, we advise, Paul. That's we. Look, we. It's us together. So me, I, all by itself. Now, I can't say me as a subject because that's an object pronoun. So I say I when I want to write with it. As a subject. Does that make sense? As a subject, you use I. You can't say, me and Daniel went to the store. Because me is an object pronoun. So you have to say I. It's first person. We, first person. All right, second person is you. Look, you. It doesn't matter. Second person is you.
No matter what.
You advise. Look, they're the same. We don't change them in first and second person. Where you have to be careful is third person. Look, Is nations singular or plural? This is the noun. This is your subject.
It's plural.
It's plural. You have the plural S. So if you have an S on your noun, on the subject, you need to be making sure that you are conjugating your verb properly and that you're putting it in the correct tense with the correct plural S, with whatever. You have to make sure you're doing it correctly. Does that make sense, Paul? So look at that. Does it take a plural S here?
No.
Nope.
It does not, because this is plural. This is in third person. It is plural. So it takes the plural verb, and that's the plural verb when it is in third person. That is the plural verb without the plural S. Okay, you guys, don't forget to look for those awesome rainbows in the sky after a big rainstorm. And we will see you in the next lesson. We hope you enjoyed this. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.